Another eventful weekend in Big 12 basketball on Saturday. A couple things to point out here to begin. BYU losing to Oklahoma State. And I want to dig into Kansas State losing to TCU. That one was tough. There is Texas Tech, Iowa State. I think the Kansas-Oklahoma wasn't shocking to me. The way that it unfolded in the second half and Oklahoma falling apart just shows me that I think that there should be more tournament hype still around a Kansas State. Oh, I'll say it. You can say that I don't know hoops because of this, that I don't know hoops, but I think there should be more tournament hype around Kansas State, or at least even with what Oklahoma has done, especially given the non-conference for Oklahoma. They beat a dilapidated Iowa, dilapidated USC. Arkansas sucks now. They lost to North Carolina. They didn't beat anybody in the non-conference. That's going to be a tournament team. That's one thing. And then into Big 12 play, their wins have been fairly mundane. Look at Iowa State at home. It's a home win. At home against West Virginia, they stink. At Cincinnati, that's a pretty good one. At Kansas State, also pretty good. And it's the only reason that I could see major pushback from that point. But I don't know if Oklahoma is going to make it past the first weekend. Moot point. It's not where I wanted to start, but it was a fun aside that I got to make. BYU losing to Oklahoma State. Here is, and again, I know Kansas State lost to Oklahoma, and it doesn't make sense in my brain, but I think Kansas State, if Tyler Perry could just be good at basketball consistently, that aside, I got to put the side away. BYU to Oklahoma State. This is the equivalent, effectively, not equivalent, because UCF's a little bit better, of when Kansas went on the road and lost to UCF. Don't beat yourself up, dude. We all do this. Having been a Big 12 fan for a couple decades now, having been someone who's covered the Big 12 the last 5 years, this is just what happens. There's always that one team. I remember it happened with Baylor when they won the national championship, where I think they lost to, it was Oklahoma State. This is what happens. Oklahoma State's not good. Are you supposed to win this game? For sure. Did they lose earlier this year like Wright State? Yeah. You should win this game. You should, right? But the fact you didn't isn't something that I have to give up all hope. Now, the lack of defense, that is something that's not really expected. Not really expected. It's not something that we have to brush over. We got to put some perspective on this. You have to play defense to win in March. You have to play defense to win in the Big 12. You didn't play defense. 83 points should win this game. But Jamyron Keller, what? Who could have known that guy was just going to have a career day? Hats off to him, huh? This happens. It happened. It just happens at different points in time for everybody. Kansas lost to UCF on the road, a month ago. We wouldn't be talking about this near as much had this happened a month ago. Because we're getting close to time, that's why it's worrisome. But in the net right now, BYU is 10th in net. You're a lock for the NCAA tournament. You could probably lose the rest of your games and still be on the bubble, if not in. Just give me a win or two more and we'll be all right. Kansas State, gosh dang it. And maybe the reason that I value Kansas State over Oklahoma, it's kind of twofold here. The first part of that fold, Oklahoma's leaving the Big 12. I have no allegiance to them. The second part of that fold, I like Jerome Tang. Again, if you're an everyday listener of this show, you know that Jerome and I had a good relationship when he was at Baylor, and I hope he wins every game that he coaches in, except for when he's playing my teams. TCU's freaking good, man. Jamie Dixon's freaking good at winning on the road. That's been the most impressive part of TCU this year, is they have been the road warriors of the Big 12. They have been so good away from the shoal. Can we call it the shoal? Shoalmire. Ugh, it's a mouthful. Can we just get it a nickname, please? TCU is freaking good at basketball. They go on the road to Texas Tech. That got even bigger. That matchup on Tuesday night got even bigger with this win for TCU at Kansas State. And for Kansas State, now at, 5-7 in Big 12 play, it's getting a lot tougher to justify what we do with you when it comes to March Madness. You have now lost 6 of 7. That Kansas win was huge. Had you beaten Oklahoma at home where you lost by 20 points, or beaten TCU at home where you lost by 3, you win those 2 games, you're in March Madness. You're 7-5 in the Big 12. Now you go on the road against Texas. That game tonight, Texas isn't very good at home. You got BYU and West Virginia at home. Because they're home games, you've got a shot in the Octagon of Doom. You have to win. Of the ones coming out, at Texas, winnable. At home against BYU, because you're at home, it's winnable. And at home against West Virginia. At that point, when you flip the script and you're 8-7 in Big 12 play, then we start thinking, oh my gosh, 3-game win streak, Kansas State's back in this. Now you got to follow it up with a win at Cincinnati. You got to play well against Kansas on the road and likely beat Iowa State, if not win a couple games in the Big 12 tournament. But for Kansas State to win now, it is win now. The next loss could be the loss that keeps you out. You've got to hurry. For Cincinnati, we could start talking a little bit more about Cincinnati. 16-9 overall here. I know that they're not a popular pick to go to March Madness, but they are 35th in net. TCU, who's effectively a lock in my mind for March, is 36th in net. Oklahoma is 38 in net. That, to me, circle it, baby, is why we got to start talking about how Cincinnati could be a March Madness team. I don't think it's out of the question. Like a Kansas State's 80th in net, right? There's no, you got to do a lot here coming up to boost that. But for Cincinnati at 35, like we're teetering on the border here, and you're playing the toughest conference in college basketball. Great road win. You held on. It was gutsy. Now for Cincinnati, the rest of the way here, you've got Oklahoma State at home. There's another win. Then TCU on the road, Houston on the road, Kansas State, Oklahoma on the road, West Virginia at home. Ooh, we're going to need you to upset a couple teams. You're going to make March. I'd pay if they beat Houston because we know Houston's getting in. That would help Cincinnati get in. I'd be okay with that. Texas Tech, you played at Iowa State. That's just a buzzsaw. I think Iowa State might win a national championship. I think Iowa State, I said it last week, I'll say it again, has the best chance of anybody in the Big 12 to win a national championship. Baylor, Josh Ojewuna, Ray J. Dennis, they're fun to watch, man. It's just, they're so stupid streaky. You know, there are those weeks like Michigan State and Duke where I was like, oh, well, Baylor sucks. And then they 3 straight losses. They did the same thing in Big 12 play last year, had 3 straight losses at one point. It was Kansas State, Texas, and TCU this year. Kansas State and Texas and TCU were involved in that last year as well. This year, I mean, it's a buzzsaw again. Whatever Scott Drew's got in the water over there, 5 out of 6 wins in a row. The only loss being a 3-point loss at Kansas. Now that game at BYU is very interesting. At home against Houston, it's interesting at TCU. And then Kansas at home. Think about this. Baylor might lose the next 4. This is a tough stretch. BYU on the road, Houston at home, TCU on the road, Kansas at home. They'll be favored in 2 of those. But, man, that's tough to get through. I had fun watching Big 12 basketball this weekend. I had fun. Kansas is good. People that say that they're not are stupid. Kansas is good. Houston's dominant. Texas is still fraudulent. Let Cincinnati in over Texas. Let Kansas State in over Texas, please. Talk more about tomorrow. George Claycraft got fired. This has been and always will be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.